What is going on, everybody? It is your host, OG Lucky here, back with another Chess with OG Lucky. We are looking at some Clash Royale matches right now, but that's beside the point. That's just filler for the background. We are here to look at the King's Gambit today. I've done the Queen's Gambit opening. I've done the Tennyson Gambit opening. Now I'm going to do the King's Gambit opening. And after this, I'm going to start looking at some more solid openings like the London and the Vienna and, things of that nature. Non-Gambit openings, basically. And it won't take more than maybe 15 minutes per video on these. Gotham Chess gave me the idea to do this, because he has the 10-minute openings, so I figure I'll do something similar to that, because people like that stuff, man. People like different takes on the openings, get a different opinion, maybe get, a layman's opinion, because I'm not too good at playing the King's Gambit. I find it very weakening, and it's very dangerous when the opponent knows what they're doing. I think with best play, actually, black is just winning with the King's Gambit. But that's the thing, when you do gambits and you do crazy attacks, the opponent can get nervous seeing you attack them so quickly. Especially like I was talking about, like London players, they hate it when you attack them and you pull them out of opening theory. They hate it. They absolutely hate it, because they just want to play the bishop out and the knight out, and they want to have everything perfectly protected where you can't break through. And, that's why I want to show you guys gambits, because when you take your opponent out of theory and you make them play based on their sheer wit alone, it can be really, really, really powerful, and it can be game-changing in some cases. If you play one move that they don't have an answer to, it can be game-changing. And, so, basically, the point is you play, the King's Pawn opening, e4, and if they go e5, then you play Pawn f4. Just like the Queen's Gambit, you remove their pawn from the center of the board, and you immediately put a second pawn in the center of the board. Now, the difference with this is the queen rush, obviously. They can play queen h4, and it can be really, really tricky to defend, but like I said, it's a gambit. It's called a gambit for a reason. And I don't care if that's not technically the definition of a gambit. You're playing a goddamn gambit when you play the King's Gambit, so you're sacrificing material to gain a positional and developmental advantage. Now, the main point of putting the second pawn in the center of the board is so if they play d5 immediately, you can play e5, so you can lock up the center. And you'll see in one of my games I actually did that, and it cost my opponent the game, because he had no way to develop, because I had all the squares that his pieces wanted to move to, I had control over them. But anyways, I've been talking for 4 minutes now. Let's get into these matches and analyze them, shall we? Alrighty, this is going to be the first game we're looking at. So we start off with e4, e5, f4. Now, basically right here, I asked my opponent if they would play the King's Gambit once I saw they played e4, and I did not move until they said yes. So, f4 takes. King's Gambit accepted. Knight f3, c5, knight to c3, knight to c6, bishop to c4, knight f6, d3, a6. Now right here it wants me to move the bishop, but I have no intention on blocking my own pawn when it has not moved from the starting square yet. not the center pawns. I don't mind blocking the C and F pawns because the knights can move, but the bishop. Why the hell does the bishop need to go right there when the queen's pawn wants to go towards the center? So basically, what this pawn move was, it says it's an inaccuracy. However, my idea was if they don't move the bishop, then I go pawn G4 after that, and attack the bishop, and technically they'll win the exchange, but I'll be up 1 point. So they can take with the knight and then take with the bishop, and they'll have an outpost square, but it's at the cost of a piece for 2 pawns. Now, most people don't do that, but I do it sometimes, and, you know, it's to open up the position. Bishop captures F4, that's the whole idea. So, you really should put the queen pawn on D4, or, yeah, D4. You really should go D4 after they take, instead of, D3, because you blocked in, it doesn't matter right here, because he already got his bishop out, but if he hadn't have had his bishop out and went D3, I mean, you just block in your own bishop. So most of the time, you should just put 2 pawns in the center, and they're easily defendable. Even with the king's pawn gone, they're easily defendable. But do you see right here? He's ready to castle in either direction. I mean, he can castle queenside. He has to do it in 2 turns, but I still haven't developed either of my bishops. I still need at least 2 moves to castle, and he can castle on the next turn if he wants. So I go b5, and this attacks the bishop. Now he goes right here, pinning the knight to the rook, and I capture with the knight because I don't even want to deal with that. And he captures with the knight. I don't know why it says best. I think he should have captured with a pawn and forced my knight to move, but it says knight captures on d5 is the best move. So, and white's up in this position. White's up, according to the engine, white is up 2 pawns. He has a 2-pawn advantage, or what is equivalent to a 2-pawn advantage. Even though position is equal right here, he's still up. White is better, because, like, this knight right here cannot be attacked. This knight cannot be attacked. It can be exchanged for another piece, but there are no pawns. I cannot attack it with a pawn, so I have to trade if I want to remove the knight from that square. So I go d6, and he castles. I go bishop b7. I should have just gone bishop b7 when he moved when he attacked the knight with the bishop, but I don't know what I was thinking. Bishop g3, h6. I'm starting the kingside attack. Knight h4, knight d4, c3, attacking the knight. I take his knight with the bishop. Now my line of thinking is, whichever one, I'm going to lose a piece either way, but at this point it's a trade. So I could have just moved the knight, but then his knight would still be on that outpost square. So instead, what I do is I take with the bishop, and now it's a trade because whichever one he takes, I'll move the other one out of danger. So it's 3 for 3, and instead of, you know, having to give up space, now I make a trade, and I force him to kind of use his brain box a little bit. So he captures the knight, I slide the bishop back, and he immediately attacks the bishop. Great move, by the way, great move. I really wasn't expecting him to find this move. So I go all the way back. Now he goes queen f3. And it says he should have gone queen h5 right here, but he went queen f3. I go f6, which is immediately a huge mistake, because he goes queen h5 now. But my line of thinking was, if he moves the queen twice, he's just stupid. Anyways, I forgot that there was a check right there. And if I push the pawn, he's just going to take it and laugh in my face. So I go king e7, the only move. And he goes knight h5, knight f5, my mistake. Now, this is just losing already. It says white is up 4.48 that's what the engine says. So I capture with the bishop because that's the only move I have. He captures with a pawn. I bring the queen, thinking I'm going to get a nice discovered attack, yada yada. Queen e2, knight d7, or king d7, my mistake. Now there's queen e6, comes with check. That's the only move. Queen f7 check, and I go back. I was thinking I was going to defend the e1 square, or the e8 square, my mistake. I'm just not good with my squares today. I go to king d8 to protect the e8 square, and I immediately realized that that was a mistake because he can just move a rook and threaten checkmate, which is exactly what he does. So he goes rook to e1. I do the discovered check, and he just blocks with the bishop. Queen c7. I forgot about the I got greedy. I should have just lost the queen. I should have just taken. That would force him to address the check, and then I could do something about this. But yeah, that's checkmate. So we'll move on to the next game. Alright, so for this game, once again, I have the black pieces, but I asked my opponent to play the King's Gambit, and he happily said yes. So we go e4, e5, f4, pawn captures on f4, d3, bishop c5, bishop captures on f4. Once again, this is what I was talking about in the last game. Since he did not put his pawn directly to the center of the board, now my bishop can come to the c5 square where it wants to be, and his other bishop is blocked in. So in case you were wondering why I said you should put both pawns in the center, it's because they cannot go bishop c5 if you put the queen pawn up to the center. And your bishop is not being blocked in by its own pieces. So we have d6, because as you can see, the bishop is undefended, and now it is defended. Granted, he can still attack it with a pawn, but he has to trade a piece for it if he wants. It's not just hanging anymore. And I open up my other bishop for development. So after knight c3, I go knight f6, knight f3, bishop g4, pinning the knight. That's another thing. My opponent, he mentioned how he blocked in his own bishop right here. And I said, well, at least you can still defend the pin, am I right? Because if you lock the bishop on c4, like for example, if he moves his bishop right now, I cannot break the pin with the bishop now, because I have locked it on c5. However, I digress. He goes h3, and I just take, because the whole point of the King's Gambit is to get a nice positional advantage early, and if I can screw up his formation and make it dangerous for him to castle kingside, for example, if he takes with the pawn, now he cannot castle kingside because his king will be in the open. But he made the best move there, and that's to capture with the queen, activating her. So I go knight c6, long castles. I short castle, thinking I'm going to make an attack on the queen side. He goes d4, attacking the bishop. I go bishop takes on d4, because he cannot retake with the rook, otherwise I take it with the knight. The computer thinks I should have taken it with the knight, but, you know, that's just me. I wanted to keep my knight right there. Bishop c4, bishop captures on c3, Queen captures on c3, a5. I don't want him having any business on the queen side. I want to storm the king's keep. I want to storm the castle with pawns. I don't know why I didn't see this knight move, but he immediately takes advantage of me not being able to capture with the pawn. Because if I capture with the pawn, it's a discovered attack on the queen. So I go knight captures on e4. And he goes queen e3. I go knight c5. Queen g3, knight b4. I don't know what I'm thinking. I'm trying to make him scared. I'm trying to scare him. And after bishop h6, my only move is either give a check and lose the knight, and then lose the rook. Right? Now he goes rook f1, and I go rook a6, thinking I'm going to do a rook lift. But after rook captures, because that fucking bishop, that was twice where I just forgot that the bishop was even there. And it says that, according to, like, advantage, not material, but, like, in terms of positional advantage, it's equivalent to being up 18, it's equivalent to being up almost 19 pawns. So after king g8, I resign because I realized that he's winning the queen immediately with that move. Which is why it says it's a blunder, by the way. So that's it for this game. The next game I will be playing with the white pieces. And yeah, hopefully it'll shed a little bit more light on this opening. So for this game, I have the white pieces, and I actually won, so, you know, that's a plus. But like, that's why it's called a gambit, because you can develop some crazy attack and win with a huge advantage. If they don't play right, which obviously I didn't. So, e4, e5, f4. King's Gambit. f6. Strange. f5. Now the point of this is, since he has moved his pawn and he is now blocking his queen from coming out, and he's blocking his knight from moving out, I decided to push the pawn and make sure that pawn never leaves that square. So after d5, queen h5 check, he moves the king, because he knows that if he moves the pawn, all I do is that, and no matter what he does, it's a discovered attack on the king. For example, he could... I mean, there's no way to block this incoming attack. Like, you could maybe give a check, but that doesn't even give a check. Like I said, like right here, you push that pawn, I just take with the pawn, and it's a discovered attack no matter what move you do. For example, you could do something like that, and instantly that's just losing, because I go there. It says it's a mistake, apparently. I guess because... How is that a mistake? I don't understand how that's a mistake. If he goes here, then No, that's not a mistake, because after... No, that's not no mistake. I guess check, and then he takes, and then I promote? Yeah, that must be it. Okay. So yeah, okay. So I just learned something right there. That's a cool little tactic, though. But anyways, none of that even happened. He goes king e7 right here. Because he knows what's happening. I mean, I guess he was able to figure that out faster than I did. Pawn captures on d5. Queen captures, attack the queen. He goes right here, I attack the queen again. And this is just a blunder. Now, there's a move right here that I didn't play, but had I played it, it would have instantly won the queen. And that move is knight to d5. Forking the king and the queen. And the queen is way the fuck out here, so that knight is well worth the queen, because with the discovered attack on the pawn the next turn, yeah. When he captures the knight, I'll just push the pawn to the center and win back that pawn where the queen is currently at very easily. But I did that for whatever reason, like an idiot. It's called a blunder because I didn't fork the king and the queen. So instead of just being up a queen, I am now up 2/3 of a queen because I have to sacrifice a piece to do it. So he moves right here. Queen h6. I mean, I don't understand what this was. I think maybe he thought I would take with the queen and trade the queens. Like, I don't know, but yeah, bro. I mean, god damn. I want whatever this guy was using. That's all I'm saying. Bishop captures on h6, and pawn captures on h6. Now I throw a check with knight d5, but it's too late to win the queen with that move. King d6, move right here, defending the knight and threatening the bishop. King c6, and then we have c4. Bishop takes on f5, and queen c7, checkmate, wins the game. Alright, for the last game in the video, we'll go e4, e5, f4, knight to c6. This is the only version of the King's Gambit declined that I was able to get. So, after knight f3, he goes pawn to d6, bishop c4, bishop e6, bishop captures on e6 because I want to have a light squared complex with the pawns, meaning that I should trade the light squared bishop so that he cannot use the light squared bishop to open up my pawns and attack my king. Plus, I want to preserve the dark squared bishop because the pawn complex on the light squares will be nice for the dark squared bishop to have a habitation where he can move in and out of the pawns easily and not get blocked in. So, captures on e6, castles. Now, I'm already castled, and he needs 2 more moves before he can castle. So, he goes pawn captures on f4. I just go d3. Now, it's saying I should have gone d4, but I went d3 because, like I said, the light squared complex, I don't really care at this point. I can move my knight here if I want. So, e5, b3, knight f6, bishop b2, knight g4, knight h4. Now I realized why this was losing immediately, but my line of thinking was, if he captures with the queen, then I have this move right here. Right? And then, no, that's not the move I was thinking of. I knew that I played the knight there for some reason. Right? I couldn't tell you what that reason was right now. I swear I had it on the tip of my tongue and I just forgot. But as you can see, it's a blunder because after he takes with the queen, I mean, I can't take that knight anymore, and he's threatening checkmate. But I know what I was thinking. If he captures, if he captures with the queen right here, then I go right here, and it's no longer checkmate. Also, now I can take the knight back, and if he takes with the queen, then it's just a queen trade. But he moves the knight to right here. Now this is why you should always look for checks, because it looks right here like I'm losing a rook. Right? Because if you move the queen, then he takes the rook. Not the case. Always look for checks. Danger levels, bro. Queen h5 check. He cannot take the rook because he is in check. g6. And this is a nice move right here. anytime you have this thing where they got a pawn defending the pawn like this on the king side, you can take that with the knight, because if he takes with the pawn, you win the rook. And the bishop is pinned. And he can't castle. And he probably never will castle. But he goes, knight captures on f1. So I say knight captures, and we've traded rooks at this point. It's saying mate in 2. Now, I don't see it for the life of me, but that's because I'm blind. So, apparently the best move was to take this right here. I don't see why. I don't know. Anyways, takes. He moves the king out to d7 with the discovered check. I play queen h7 check, b7, knight f7, queen g8, queen f5 check, king e8, and back to knight h6, attacking the queen and setting up a mate threat. Knight e3, queen h5 check, knight d7, knight captures on g8. Now this is another thing right here. This is not danger levels, what he's doing right here, because as soon as I move the queen and check him, if I move the queen where it is creating a check on their king, then their queen is still under attack, and my queen is attacking the king, and he therefore has to move. That's why it says it's a blunder, because this move blunders the queen. With this, he has to... His only two moves, he can go here and just lose the queen outright, or he can go here and just lose the queen outright, because it's protected by the knight, and he can't take it. So, yeah, I mean, he thought, oh, I'll just trade queens. It's danger levels, bro. It's danger levels. If you take my queen, I take yours. Nah. Not even. Checks, captures, and attacks, man. Always look, see if you can check them, see if there's anything you can capture, see if there's anything you can attack. Now, he had the right idea here. He just didn't realize that I had that check winning the queen. So after queen h5, you have king d7, and knight captures the queen on g8, rook g8, and I slide the queen back to h3, giving a check, knight d8, and, my mistake, I keep saying knight d8, that's king d8. The K confuses me on the move notation. And g3, knight captures on c2, queen h7 check wins the rook, because the only way he defends is by moving up, and the rook is undefended. So, oh, that wasn't a check, my mistake. But that is king d7, queen h5, rook back to g7, queen f5 check, king d8 once again, knight a3. That's when he decided to take the rook right here, because my thing was, if he moves any other piece, then I just take this knight, and I would have saved my rook right there. But he took the rook, so I took the knight back with the bishop. Now it says right here I'm down, but my position is huge. I have a huge advantage right here, because my queen is very powerful. So after pawn captures, I just push the pawn. It's not en passant. If the pawn was one square, if the pawn was on g4 instead of g3, it would have been en passant, because en passant can only occur if the pawn making the capture is on the 4th or 5th rank. Depends on which side you're on. And after bishop captures, well, that's a mistake. That's a huge mistake, because that leaves this square, f8, undefended. And the only reason I didn't go f8 last turn is because the bishop was there. Now that the bishop isn't there anymore, I can go queen f8. But that's the reason why I pushed that pawn, because it looks like I'm just losing a pawn. But if he takes the pawn, I'm actually losing nothing. I'm winning the rook. So king d7 takes the rook with check, and now we have king e6 takes with check, or it doesn't take, but moves to h6 with check again, and bishop f6, queen h3, king e7, winning the pawn, and after queen captures on g3, we have knight d4. I take the knight with the bishop on d4. He takes it back with the pawn. I move the knight to b5. He moves the bishop to e5, attacking the queen. But after queen g5 check, knight d7, queen f5 check, knight c6, knight a7 check, king b6, knight c8 check, king c6 back to c6, knight d7 check, king c5, queen f7, setting up mate, c6, I don't know what the hell that was, queen c4, apparently it was a missed win, I don't, no, what? Moving, I don't understand that. Oh. So after this, but without a knight, why would you sacrifice the knight first? That's so stupid. That doesn't make any sense. That doesn't make any sense. I don't understand. Oh, it's saying I should have done that before. Oh, no, duh. Okay. Yeah, so after queen c4 check, we have king b6, knight c8 check, king c7 attacking the knight, knight a7, b5, queen captures c6 check, king d8, and we have queen c8 check, king e7, knight c6 check, king f8, knight e5, king captures on e5, queen f5 mate. This is referred to as the smothered mate. Not really. It's kind of like a smothered mate because his own pawn is blocking the escape square. So his pawn is smothering the king where he cannot move to safety. But I don't know. I guess it's just called I'll call it a queen fishing rod mate because it kind of looks like a fishing rod on the screen right now. But anyways, that is all. By the way, I'd once again like to point out that I have a special gift for my viewers, and that is a discount code for Saved by Christ Apparel, who have tons of awesome shirts. Obviously, you don't have to be a Christian to buy them, but, you know, they're nice shirts. And that discount code is in all caps now, AIDANB. And you get a 10% discount on any purchase, plus I get a small kickback from it. So if you want to go and get a 10% discount, which is up to $5 right here, as you can see, then that would be awesome. And once again, I'd like to thank you for watching the video. This is OG Luqqy, signing off, everybody. Have a great evening.